Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining me tonight. My name is Mark, and thanks for being a part of this project with me. This episode turns out to be the third installment of what's become just my thoughts on diversity. And the previous two was really more of sharing my personal experiences of having been able to experience and live in diverse environments. But what I wanted to do today is really take a brief look at what I see how the Bible views diversity in our life. And where I want to start is with Genesis 1:27, when God has was creating the world, and he created humanity in Adam and Eve. God said, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female, he created them. So God created humanity to be in his image. And from what I read in the creation narrative, it's easy for me to picture Adam and Eve as this Caucasian couple, right? I mean, it doesn't really tell us what they looked like or anything really about them physically. So when you read things like that, typically you just transpose yourself into that picture. I think at least that's how I do it. I think it's normal. I think so. So I would assume a lot of people, maybe you too, read the creation narrative in that same way, or just read stuff in the same way. And so for me, when I look at that, I just see Adam and Eve like myself. But the word I want to emphasize in that verse is that God created humanity in the image of him, like a reflection of what God looks like. Maybe not physically, but in his character. What does God look like? When you look at Adam and Eve, you would be able to see the image or the reflection of who God is in them. And so I think of it like when I think about the world full of humanity, right? The image that I love to think about is that God created people, all of us, in his image. And so we're like a mirror, right? We were created to be a reflection of him. Not him himself, not God himself, but a reflection of who God is. And so it's like a mirror. God picks up this mirror and he has a perfect reflection of what he looks like and who he is. But then sin happens in the world, right? God is perfect, and we chose to not be the way God wanted us to be. And we chose to disobey and to walk away from him. So at that moment, his image is broken. The image is he can no longer hold on to it because it's not perfect. So God drops that mirror and it comes to earth and shatters into 1,000 pieces. And that is, all of us scattered throughout the world in our different cultures and different groupings that we find ourselves in. And so I like this imagery because then our role is to recognize that we actually are created to be a reflection of the character of God, to reflect the beauty and love that he is. But glass is sharp, right? So if we were to try to pick up that piece of our own mirror, if we were to pick up our own piece of that mirror, right, we'd end up cutting ourselves and easily hurting other people. And so it's not really possible for us to clean that up ourselves. But Jesus, he's the master repairer, right? If we let him, he picks us up and not only cleans us off, but he makes us entirely a new piece of glass to be that mirror, to be that reflection. And once we allow Jesus to do that to us, to cut out that piece that's exactly us, so that we can reflect who God is, we become that reflection of God's beauty and love within our lives again. Colossians 3:10 says, now this is the context of this verse that I want to lead into is really understanding that Jesus has done all this stuff. He's been able to help. Jesus has come and he's paid the penalty for our sins, and in him we can have this new life. And so in Colossians 3:10 it says, put on the new self, which is being renewed in the knowledge after the image of its creator. Put on this new self, which is being renewed in the knowledge after the image of its creator. So this verse is saying, like, be this new piece of mirror that reflects the image of God. Now, in this small little piece of mirror that we can know God, right? We can we can see his reflection. We can understand who he is. And in this small little piece that we are, we can reflect who he is. But God didn't make our lives, he didn't create us to be living a life by ourselves and to have his private relationship with him. He made us for his family. And so what happens is when that piece that we have joins with other pieces and people that have different personalities or different life experiences, we start adding those pieces to our piece of the mirror, and we have a bigger picture of who God is. Now, when we take those pieces and join it to others who come from different cultural backgrounds or speak different languages, we see even a bigger picture of who God is. And I see the Bible speaking directly to this. Another verse that I want to go to today is Ephesians 2:19. And in the letter to this church in Ephesus, it's saying, "So now you non-Jewish people are not visitors or strangers anymore, but you are citizens together with God's holy people. You belong to God's family." Now remember, Jesus was a Jew, right? And the Jews were the people that God had chosen to show the world what a life in relationship with him would look like. So in the Jewish mind, there were Jews, people that were chosen by God, and then everybody else, the non-Jews. And there was a clear division that existed. I mean, the Bible talked about it, right? There was a separate reality for those that were chosen and were Jewish people and those that were not. But now, because of Jesus, we're one big happy family. Well, I think it's intended to be a happy family, but right, our families are challenging. Think of your own family and how crazy hot mess it probably is. And then think of your own family. Think of your own family adding other people who have different backgrounds and different cultures and different languages. Now, when you look at that as a family, and if your own family, your own immediate family is struggling, then this huge, diverse group of people that are trying to live together and have community together is a recipe for a lot of unhappiness. So, leading up to that verse, it said in that same chapter, Christ is the reason we now are at peace. He made us Jews and you who are not Jews one people. We were separated by this wall of hate that stood between us, but Christ broke down that wall by giving us his own body. And then it continues saying, his purpose was to make two groups of people become one in him. And by doing this, he would make peace. Through the cross, Christ ended the hate between the two groups. I mean, that's an amazing statement. So why is unity important? You know, why can't we just have our own piece of our own mirror, dust it off, and keep to ourselves? And the reason is because we need each other, right? Later on in that same book, in the book of Ephesians, that same letter, it goes on to say in chapter 4, all the parts of the body are joined and held together, with each part doing its own work. This causes the whole body to grow and be stronger in love. Now, the imagery changes from a family to a body, but I think this imagery is even better because, like, in a family, we can be identified with one another, but we don't necessarily have to interact, especially if it's a big family. So we can have different groups in different places. Like in a family reunion, right? You kind of hang with the people that you know and wave at the people that you don't really get along with. But in the imagery of a body, all of us genuinely are one. We have many parts to our physical body. And if one of those is not in a good place and is not feeling well, the rest of the body feels it with it. So it's as if like this idea of unity exists is because we are all linked together in order to, as part of God's family. So catch the key words here. We are joined together because this causes the whole body to grow and be stronger in love. As I shared in the last two videos, living in Malaysia for 6 years, I was fully immersed in Chinese community living there. And as I shared in those videos, I learned how to love in a completely different way than in the way that I was brought up in my own home. Those 6 years of living there, it stretched me. It was painful to understand why they did things that they did. But in the end, when I got it, when I understood that their actions were being done for the cause of love in the way that they understood it and in the way that they wanted to express it, and I started learning those things and adapting to it, and then not only assimilating but like making part of that way of living my own, it made me a better person. And so in doing so, I came also to know God's love in a greater way as well. So you can choose your metaphor, I think, for today, right? A mirror, a family, a body, but it's all saying the same thing. We need each other to know how to love better. And we need each other to reflect the love of God in a greater way. For me, this was a huge concept for me to grasp, because life is not meant to live alone. And life isn't even meant to be lived with people who are just like me. In fact, I need others who are of different ages, of different backgrounds, cultures, experiences, so that I can understand what it means to love in a greater way. It's not just a nice to have in life. Like, this would be nice to have that kind of differences in people in my life. No, it's really what we were made for. So I encourage you, in whatever diversity that exists around you, to lean into it. Because really, I've experienced it, I read it in the Bible, and I know that your life will be blessed by it. That's it for today. Thanks for being here.